tell us about you, Lindsey, and what you do.
Just to give you a little bit background on me, obviously I'm very young. I graduated from college in 2016. I'm 26. I've always been really good with my money. But after a year or so of having a full-time big girl job, I wanted to know more about what I could do with it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, okay, once I get good at saving money, what am I supposed to do now? So I started pouring into personal finance, psychology, business, because those were all topics that interested me and things that I majored in college. And by the time I was 26, I had consistently saved 25% plus of my income, invested over $45,000 into the stock market. And I also started my own business after I got laid off during the pandemic. So a large series of events led me into becoming a money coach.
So as a money coach, exactly what do you do? So you're someone who's had your very not so long time, on this earth. And I really understand how it is to, be very successful in a particular area in your life, at a very young age. So that's great. Congratulations. But
thank you.
As a money coach and helping people with money, what exactly do you do?
So a money coach, you can think of it as kind of like a personal trainer for your finances.
Yeah.
So they help with the more behavioral and educational aspects of money. So strategies for saving more, or helping you figure out what a 401k is, or why you're spending so much money on avocado toast or something like that. As opposed to a financial advisor, I do not sell financial products to my clients. I'm not licensed to do so.
Yeah.
I am only 100% focused on helping my clients do what's best for them, rather than selling them financial products that they may or may not need.
As professionals, when we work, we earn a living, we make an income, we're paid at the end of the month, or we're paid bi-weekly, or whereas contractors, we're paid weekly or hourly. What are the top mistakes you find that we make as professionals with money?
I think the biggest mistake is not living within your means. So people who spend more than they make. And that can be somebody who makes $30,000 a year, or that can be somebody that makes $100,000 a year. It doesn't matter how much you make, it matters how much you keep. And that is, by and large, the biggest financial problem that people who feel like they're struggling with money have. But they also make other, I wouldn't say mistakes, I would say it's more of habits that people don't have, or just knowledge that they don't have about the way that money works and what they can do with it.
I think saving money is a huge problem. With a lot of people, we earn a living, we have an income, and even though most time nobody would ever say their income is enough for all their needs to live the kind of life they want, their lifestyle. However, we can still save. So what are your top tips for saving money?
It's really psychological. Your behavior with money is just a reflection of the values and priorities that you have, as well as your relationship with money itself. Working out, people generally know what they're supposed to be doing. They know they're supposed to be saving more, maybe investing, maybe not buying avocado toast. But a lot of times it's really hard to get yourself to actually do that thing. And sometimes you don't know where to start, and then you don't do anything at all because there's just way too much information out there. And other times it's just frustrating. You can't get yourself to do it. It's actually because willpower is a limited resource. So a lot of people think oh, if I had more willpower, I could do this. Or if I had more information, I could do this. But several studies have shown that the more that you resist things that you want, the less energy you have. And so the more you'll give in. So you can only resist a donut so many times before you end up eating it, right? If you're into donuts. So one of my biggest tips that I tell to my clients is take away that temptation. Just take it away. So for example, if you know that you spend a lot of money on Amazon, which you should be tracking your spending, and you know that you're spending a lot of money on Amazon, you can take the app off your phone. You can remove the notifications. I turned off all the notifications on there. Or if you're constantly getting emails from your favorite store, just unsubscribe from the emails, and then you won't be as tempted to shop there. So your willpower won't be like, oh, like I'm really trying not to shop here, but like, oh, I'm just going to give in. You won't even think about it because it's not on your mind.
So what are your tips for tricking ourselves into saving money? So you say that we have to sort of trick ourselves to save money. But for some people, someone like me, I'm frugal, so I know how to, and that's the reason why I found in most of my adult years, I've been able to self-sponsor myself through a lot of things I've done, and really just setting a goal and saying, I want to get this by this time. So everything I'm doing right now is I'm working towards achieving that. So I'm saving money for school, saving money for a car, saving money to buy my house. Everything was very strategic for me. So for people who cannot be that strategic, what are your tips for them to trick themselves into saving money without even knowing that they're saving money?
There's a lot of different things you can do. And again, I think it just comes from removing temptation. So some people in the financial space say, okay, if you have credit card debt and you can't keep yourself from spending on your credit cards, literally cut them up and do not use them. Like only use cash or only use your debit card. That is going to remove so much temptation for you because you're physically not going to be able to live beyond your means, especially with cash. So that's a good tip.
So let's talk about the ways to sort of track our income and expenses. So, it's easy to spend, especially when you don't receive your salary to say like the end of the month. It's easy for you to have spent way more than, you're going to get, right? How can we track our income and our expenses to make sure that every month I know that, I don't spend anything more than $2,000. If anything that's going to make me spend more than my threshold, which is $2,000, then it moves to the next month. It has to wait, that kind of thing. So how do we track our income and expenses?
So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And there's definitely not one right way. Like personal finance is totally personal. So you should do whatever way gets you to do it, like do that thing. For me, what worked was making an Excel spreadsheet, and that I did manually. So at first I tried like using apps like Mint or YNAB to automatically, like every time I swipe my credit card, it goes into the category and it like tracks it. But that didn't work very well for me because I wasn't looking at it every day. Like I didn't care. Whereas when I used my spreadsheet, I just like, I had to type in every single thing that I did. It only takes me like an hour a month because it'll automatically calculate everything. It'll make it into a pie chart to see where I'm spending the most. And again, tricking yourself into spending less, you can use this spreadsheet. So
how can we be financially responsible? So be financially responsible doesn't mean that, we're reckless, right? But as professionals, how can we be more financially responsible?
Again, I think the biggest thing is just to live below your means. And there is so much in that. Really, I think the first step for anybody who's looking to get their money under control, the most impactful thing that you can do right now is track your spending. You don't even need to make a budget or anything. Just track your spending.
Right.
And your eyes will be open like, wow, that's how much I'm spending on that. Or you might even find, like some of my students have, like, wow, I'm actually doing a lot better than I thought. And that just knowing where you're at helps reduce a lot of that anxiety.
So what are your tips for effective, money management?
Pretty much everything that we've talked about so far. I think the biggest thing, like I think I said before, is habit forming. Like the habit that you just described, Ano, which was even though you're thinking about like getting a breakfast in bed delivered, you thought to yourself like, okay, do I really need this? And to some extent, I think a lot of people do this, but if you're not in the habit of doing it all the time, it's just going to be like a quick impulse. Like it's on my phone. It's on my phone. It's on my phone. I talked to somebody one time who told me that he knew that he had a problem because he was spending like $60+ on Postmates every single day. Like to the point where like he had a really good salary, but he was still in credit card debt because he was just like spending so much money. And I don't remember where I was going with that exactly, but it's so easy to, especially as you start advancing in your career and doing better, let lifestyle creep come in.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like I just got a raise, like I deserve this. And then treat yourself syndrome like starts coming in. And before you know it, it's like normal to get like a $60 dinner every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night.
Right.
So it's when you're tracking your spending and having these habits, it's a lot easier to be like, oh crap, I just doubled my budget for this in a month, or my spending for this in a month. So just knowing where you're at is really going to be the most important thing at all times.
Yeah. And, I just want to share with whoever is watching, if you have a plan, say you want to go back to school, get a master's, you want to buy a new car because you need it, not just because it's a want, it's a need. You want to buy a house because you need, you want to own your own house. You need a bigger house for maybe you're expecting more kids. You want to say immigrate or move countries. You want to move cities. Then, you can actually, dedicate money and set aside money towards that goal, and have a set amount of money you move towards that savings plan, so that you can achieve that goal. Say you want to save $2,000, you can say, okay, every month I set aside $200, and in 10 months you're able to save that. So that, also helps you.
Yeah, it's really nice to have that goal that you're going towards. And a lot of times people will just save, or they'll just like have this idea like, oh yeah, I should be saving, but they don't really know what they're saving for.
Yeah.
So having that goal in mind is definitely key. And that's what I tell my students to do in our course. Like at the end, we put together like a spending plan for them. And okay, this is what I'm going to save for this goal for this long, and this is when I'm going to achieve this goal. And they go through all their goals, and it could be like a 5-year plan, but they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing at any given time. And then when they get a raise, or if they get like the side income you were talking about, or a tax refund, then they're like, oh, this is great. Like I have extra money to do this. And they don't feel guilty spending on the things that they love because they know that they're reaching their goals.